What's going on, everybody? Eternal Red Gamer here. Now, don't mind my hair. The last time you saw me, I probably didn't have this much hair, but it's okay. It's growing out, it's curling, and it's like late at night. So I'm just recording this super late, so you're gonna see me in my casual wear. So I haven't done a video like this in a while. I've actually only done one video, so I'm gonna continue on with the pass or play theme. Today, I'm gonna give a little mini review on a demo game called A Sister's Journey. Is it a pass? Is it a play? Guess you'll find out in just a moment. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through my brief summary and my thoughts on the game and if it's a pass or play. And then I'm going to show you guys my little run through of the demo itself. And of course, as we all say, if you like the video, enjoy the content, or if you want to just support me, give a like on the video. You can follow on YouTube, Twitch. You can also join my Discord, and I'll have those links below in the comment section. All right, so I'll preface the commentary with this. I am extremely biased when it comes to pixel art games. I love pixel art. I love the aesthetic for pixels and sprites. This game looks beautiful right from the jump. There are so many different variation types on what a pixel art game could look like. It could look like Celeste. It could look like Castlevania. It could look like Dead Cells. There's so many different types. And you have Super Meat Boy. And then you have the sprite works of classic NES and SNES titles like classic Mario games. I think it's a very beautifully pixel rendered game. It's very colorful. It's very bright. It has a little bit of a nostalgia feel when it comes to certain games that I've played in the past. Overall, it's just a pretty looking game that makes me want to play more just to see what else is out there. So the storyline of this game is you play as the main character, Violet, who is on her journey searching for her sister. You go through different caves and areas to face mysterious threats and foes in this run-and-gun Metroidvania platform adventure. You test your skills with tight jumps and solving puzzles in certain areas along the way, all while defeating unknown enemies in search for clues to find your sister's whereabouts. Getting through the demo and doing some backtracking and enjoying the gameplay took me about 2.5 hours to get through. As far as the control scheme, I do enjoy that the controls are a little tight when it comes to movement. You have some free reign when it comes to jumping. You do have a wall jump ability. You also get a double jump and a couple other gun weapons later on throughout this demo. Some things that I didn't like as much is when you're crouching, you can't jump. And the reason for that is because, like many platformers, you can actually hold down and then press the jump button and you go through platforms. But in other games, if you're not on a platform, you'll still be able to jump while crouching. So I wish this game had that, because some gameplay mechanics throughout I don't want to say this. I feel like in certain areas, the game warrants the ability for you wanting to jump when crouching, even though there's no platform to descend from. So it's almost like the game not necessarily punishes you, but because it doesn't allow you to do that, it restricts your movement, which forces you to actually stand in areas where you actually want to crouch to dodge enemies or to get some momentum when you're doing some other movement. Later on, you do get a slide ability, which adds a little bit towards the movement, which is pretty neat. But all in all, it'd be nice to have some of these abilities from the beginning, because I feel like it should be normal in the type of game that you play. Like, you shouldn't necessarily unlock a slide ability. I feel like a lot of these games now, you should just have it. Double jump is like one of the base functions in a lot of platforming games that you earn. You don't typically get it from the jump in a lot of games. So there's that. You can automatically swim and breathe underwater, which is no big deal right now. There are hidden areas and different secrets to find that unlock these special gems, and these gems you can actually get as currency. There's two different forms of currency. You also get one that improves your upgrades. And speaking of upgrades, what's unique about this gunplay system is you acquire different guns. In this demo, you only get 2 of them, but you eventually unlock the ability to have a second form or an alternate version of your gun to shoot. And this unlocks different gameplay elements. One of them allows you to actually do this kind of multi-fire spray that bounces off of walls and ceilings, while another one does a different type of shotgun blast. With these weapons, when you collect these little gems, you actually upgrade your weapon in roll time. So as you can see under the gun, there's different levels. It starts out at level 1, is when you get enough of these gems, it unlocks level 2, and level 3, and so on. The most that I was able to get to is level 4, and then you can do a little bit more damage. Sometimes it's a little bit more speed, and it just varies on the weapon. But something to note, that it is possible for you to lose these the momentum on these upgrades when you take damage, or actually when you die. And it's very easy to die in this game, and instead of actually having a game over sequence, you restart in the room that you entered in, or the last checkpoint in some of these rooms, and you just pick up where you left off. And instead of like losing your life and starting over from your last save point, it actually just takes away from some of the potential upgrade that you have for your gun, or it takes away from the leveling up of your gun, and that's the sacrifice that you're going to be losing in this game when dying or getting hit. Now, one thing this game reminds me of, it's a game that I really enjoyed as a kid. I believe it was from the Learning Company, and I was born in the mid-'80s, so this is a really old game that a lot of you watching this video probably have no idea about. The Learning Company actually made a bunch of really neat learning games, from math to reading to engineering, a lot of cool stuff. And then there is this game called, what's it called? Oh, I don't remember what it's called now. All of a sudden, let me look it up real quick. Age of Empires is a totally different game. Hold on, man, just looking this up gives me instant nostalgia because these were actually really cool games that were DOS games. If you know what DOS is, go look it up. Outnumbered, Midnight Rescue, Gizmos and Gadgets, Operation Neptune. I played all those games. Treasure Mountain, Treasure Cove, Treasure Mass Storm. Wow. Classic. Okay. Challenge of the Ancient Empires. Wow. So it was very close to Age of Empires. That's so funny. And this game was kind of it was an adventure game that allowed you to go through different caves and caverns and search for treasure and of course to escape. And this game reminds me of that because in the very beginning, as you go through these caves early in this demo, you'll realize that it's a lot more exploration than actually fighting enemies. Now that does change a little bit later in the demo, but at least thus far, it seems like this is going to be more of an adventure game that requires you to kind of learn your whereabouts and platform and solve puzzles with different abilities and items rather than killing a bunch of enemies like in a regular run and gun. Most recent run and gun adventure game that I played was Mummy Demastered, and I think that was a great game as far as what it intended to be. I think it was a little stale as far as weapons, and it forces you to only use weapons rather than abilities. So me, I'm more of an ability type of guy. So this game I like because you do innately get a dash from the beginning, and you can either dash left or right, but they have different buttons. So it's not like you hold left and dash to go left and hold right and then dash to go right. There's a dash left and a dash right button. So it gets a bit confusing earlier on because I'm not used to having two individual dash buttons, and it kind of messes up the platforming, but you get the hang of it, you get used to it as you continue to play through the game. One additional note that I want to add here is you do have a cooldown meter, and a cooldown, not meter, you have a cooldown amount when it comes to shooting your weapons, which is the number above the upgrade meter there, the level meter. And then certain weapons have certain amounts of charges when it comes to expelling ammo. And then once you go down to 0, or once it goes down, it refreshes and it's a cooldown time. But when it hits 0, it refreshes slower because you can still shoot while doing that. I think that adds a little bit to the form factor of you being able to upgrade your weapons and be able to have more ammo, but I think it takes away from the gameplay because in a game where you just want to shoot, and in a game like Metroid or any other type of typical shooter, you end up having a certain amount of ammo and it's consistent throughout the entire game and it doesn't slow down, and maybe it speeds up. But in this game, I feel it takes away from the gameplay because you're on a roll trying to kill enemies, or if you're fighting a boss and then all of a sudden your ammunition is slowed down just because you have to wait for it to recharge, then it focuses on more running around and dodging enemies rather than shooting them. It takes away from the gameplay, and I think, at least for me, it reduces a bit of the fun because it focuses then on almost like stamina for your gun. And I feel like it just doesn't fit right in this game. But maybe that'll change when the actual game launches and you have more weapons, you have a little bit more consistency as far as how you can play the game. But we'll see when it comes there. What I was actually pleasantly surprised to see is that there is a workbench. So think of it like if you played The Last of Us, or at certain workbenches, or at workbenches throughout the levels, you can actually upgrade your weapons, and there's a skill tree when it comes to your gun, so you can upgrade the actual gun itself, you can upgrade how much damage it may do, you can upgrade what type of ability it does. So the impact cannon, for example, you can increase its power level, and you can increase its shotgun radius. You can also change its alternate version where it shoots these little shards out after the weapon has been discharged, and then there's an upgrade on top of that where the shards actually break down into even smaller it breaks down to even smaller shards to do additional damage when it's leveled up. Having a skill tree actually allows you a little bit more freedom of what weapon you want to use or utilize the most, and you can have a favorite weapon, and these little gray charms are what you use to upgrade your weapons, and the golden ones actually upgrade your overall level of your gun. All right, next up we're going to go into is the map. So the map is something that you can open up with the pause menu, and you can see that there's different tiles that show you the different rooms that you can go in. Like any typical Metroidvania, you're going to be able to see the rooms and traverse into whatever room you've gone into, what items that you may have missed, treasure chests that you can see but haven't physically been able to get. What I don't like is you don't get to see a map in real time. A lot of games like in Metroid or Super Metroid, you can actually have a map on the top, like right of your screen. This game, to my knowledge, you don't get to see the map, so you constantly have to open up the menu in order to see where you've been and where you want to go. So that is more of a quality of life thing, that if you have a small little map in the corner, you'll be able to see the adjacent rooms, and maybe if there's an item that you missed in a room that you want to go back and revisit. Within the map, you'll see some key items, and there's some puzzles that you will be able to solve, like moving this electromagnetic key from one area to the other, and you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to open this? How am I going to let this platform move? So I do enjoy that. And there's one particular area I got stuck because I didn't know where to go, and I had to backtrack to go to an area, and then I had to figure out how to jump across a lava pit. And all I had to do was literally shoot this crystal on the other side of the pit. There was no indication, nothing telling you to do that. You just happened to do it. Okay. There is some dialogue and some NPCs. The dialogue gets a little bit quirky at times, but there's a storyline with it. no harm, no foul. I do, speaking of dialogue, I do enjoy that when the characters talk, it is reminiscent of Banjo-Kazooie. We're just like, last thing I want to go into is the bosses. So in this game, I believe there's 3 bosses. I know there's 2 for sure. I want to say there was 3. I don't remember off the top of my head. And the bosses are a little unique, and it does have a health meter. One boss in particular later in the game, it seems like you're not doing any damage and you have to figure out how to beat the boss, which I don't mind that. What I do mind if it's overly complicated or it's just numbingly long. Like, you know, when you fight a boss and it's challenging because there's skill that is involved, you have to dodge and you have to aim your attacks, or maybe that you have to hit them in a certain weak spot before you can actually do real damage. But if the fight is just long for the sake of it needs to be long, like this isn't the late 80s and the early 90s where you're trying to get the player to play for a longer period of time, so you just make fights longer. Like, this isn't it. There needs to be some skill involved, but don't make the fights long just to be long. I think that takes away from the gameplay here. And that's what happens in the boss before the end of the game. It's just a long fight and you're either underpowered, or if you end up dying a bunch of times and your weapon downgrades, then it's just only going to take you longer to fight. So I think that takes away from it a little bit. But all in all, it does have some challenging platform sections. It does have some neat weapons. It does have some really cool sprites, and the game looks beautiful. There's a couple scenes in the game where the work of art is just beautiful, and I do appreciate the change in style. I just hope to see a bit more of that once the game actually launches. All right, so the question you've probably been waiting for, is this a pass or a play? Well, granted, it's a demo and you can jump in and out whenever you want to play as long as you want to try it for free. Currently, I'm playing it on Steam. I don't know if it's on any other platforms to demo as of right now, but I would say it's a play. And here's why I say it's a play, because it's worth actually playing as far as getting a feel for these indie games that have the potential to be good, possibly great. I think this has the potential to be good. I think there are some mechanics that can be improved upon, and I think that where the game is heading with some of the extra weapons you might be able to get, some of the platforming sections, and some of the abilities that you might get later in the game, I am hopeful, but I'm not holding my breath. If I had to rank a great letter grade, it'd probably be a C for the demo, but I think it's worth getting your hands on in order to see if this is the type of game that you want to play. And if you like this game, there are definitely other games like it that are better, that are already out, but we got to give these devs a chance. I'm a huge fan of indie games. I play way more indie games than I do any type of variation of A quality, AA, AAA quality games. And if you're wondering how challenging it may be and how many times you're going to die, you're going to die a lot. 2 hours and 32 minutes, 164 deaths. You'll die a lot, but at least you respawn right in the same room. Okay, that's my mini review of A Sister's Journey. So if you want to stick around and see some actual gameplay from yours truly, just continue watching the video or save it for later. But I implore you, watch it now because you're already here, right? Right.